Hey guys, Mitch with Shock Therapy, and today we're going to be showing you how to install the newly designed BSD adjustable spacer kit. This kit's going to do a couple of things for you guys. Number one, it's actually going to allow you to really fine-tune the bump steer that is known in these cars. Number two, each Can-Am is going to be different, so you have to measure it to determine what bump steer number that you guys have. With this kit being adjustable, it actually allows you to move the spacers around inside the spindle itself to eliminate all of the bump steer. This install does take a little bit more time, so allow yourself 3 to 4 hours to really focus on the measurements. Let's jump on in. I'm going to show you guys how to do it. Okay guys, so before we jump into the installation of actually putting this into your car, we want to show you the different spacers that we have here and the different orientations that this rod end can be set up inside of the spindle. So we'll do a quick run through of that before we jump in. The first kit that we're going to show you is basically a factory location of your factory tie rod. Most newer Can-Ams are going to have less bump steer than like your older style Can-Ams are. So giving you the option to have a center kit if your car has 0 bump steer, or giving you the option of an adjustable kit to actually fix it. So looking at the spacers, you're going to have a tall high miss style spacer, a really short high miss style spacer, and then you're actually going to have 2 of these spacers that are identical. So a total of 4 spacers, 2 of them are the same, the other 2 are different. So jumping in, we're going to do a center kit first. So if you have your spindle here, let's see the best way to do this. You start with your taller high miss spacer on the top. You're going to have your short, smaller high miss spacer on the bottom. And then both of these other spacers are going to stack on top of each other and also go on the bottom. So when this goes into your spindle, you can actually see that the rod end itself is centered between the 2 mounting points on the spindle itself. That's what we're going to call our center kit. Now let's show you guys the half kit, or a full kit, sorry. You're basically going to take one of the spacers that's on the very bottom and move it to the top. I'm going to put that back in here. And now you can see that the rod end dropped that height of that spacer that is now on the top inside of the spindle. That's going to be your full kit. And now, I'm sorry, that's going to be your half kit. Now our full kit is taking that last spacer that's on the bottom and also putting it on the top. So this is going to be the full kit. You have both spacers on top of your tall high miss spacer and your smaller high miss spacer on the very bottom. What this does is lowers that rod end as far down as it can go inside of the spindle. Most Can-Am X3s that are 17 to 18, some 19s, are going to use this kit for the most part, because we've seen anywhere from 3 to 5 inches of bump steer in these cars. So those are going to be the 3 different styles, 3 different adjustments that you can do. This can also be flipped around, and you can actually install this the opposite direction to where the rod end actually sits as far up in the spindle as it possibly can. We don't ever really see that, so I'm not going to really jump into that too much, but that's going to be your 3 main ones. Depending on what your car has for bump steer is going to determine what kit you're actually going to use with this new style BSD kit inside the spindle. So let's jump into the install.
Your first step is to jack up the front of the vehicle. Next, you can remove both front tires from the UTV. Using a 15/16 wrench or a 22 millimeter, loosen the inner tie rod jam nut in preparation for removal of the factory tie rod. Using an 18 millimeter wrench and an 18 millimeter socket, remove the bolt on the spindle holding the outer tie rod end inside the spindle. Next, remove the tie rod from the vehicle. Repeat these steps on the opposite side. Install the new tie rod onto the factory rack or the Shock Therapy rack, making sure that the tie rod is completely bottomed out to the jam nut on the rod end.
Okay guys, so when you have the new tie rod installed to our rack or the factory rack, this is the part where we're going to start with measuring our center kit. This is going to tell you if you're close to your target, 1/4 inch bump steer or not. It's going to determine which kit you actually need. I'd like to start with the center kit to give us a good idea of which direction we need to go with the adjustable kit of the bump steer.
Start with the taller high-miss spacer on top of the rod end, followed by the smaller high-miss spacer on the bottom, and then the 2 individual spacers on the bottom as well to create the center kit. Install the factory bolt back through the spindle, ending with the nut on the bottom.
So then if you notice, that rod end is perfectly centered inside the spindle itself. That's going to be our starting point for both sides.
Tighten down the hardware and repeat this step on the opposite side. Next, reinstall both front tires.
Okay guys, so after you install the tie rods and you have your rod end with your new BSD spacers into the center position, it is important to lower the vehicle down to the ground and just twist your tie rods to get your tires straight to where you can drive it back and forth to settle the suspension, to then set your toe to that 0. We'll explain that when we get there.
Lower the vehicle back to the ground and start adjusting your tie rods to where your front tires are close enough in line to your rear tires. Drive the UTV forward and backwards a couple of times to settle the suspension, to then set the toe to 0. Make sure you come to a coasting stop without hitting the brakes.
Okay guys, so when you have the suspension settled after you drove it back and forth, you're going to start to adjust the tie rods to get your toe at ride height to 0, which means the front measurement of the inside of the tires is going to be the same measurement as the back of the front tires. Once you have that, that is basically going to be our starting point. We're going to jack the car up and do the same process and measure the toe in the front of the tire along with the rear of the tire to get the difference in that measurement. That's going to give us our bump steer number.
When measuring your toe, this can be done by yourself, but we do find it more helpful that you have somebody else assist you with the measuring.
45 3/4.
Okay, so our front measurement was 45 3/4, and our back measurement was also 45 3/4. That means our toe is at 0 at ride height. What we're going to do now is jack the car up and take those same measurements again to see what the difference is in our numbers. So now that we have the center kit installed, it's a good idea to grab a piece of paper and write down all of your measurements that you guys are getting throughout the cycle of changing the kit. That way at the end of the instruction video, you'll be able to look back at this and know which kit that you need for your car based off the bump steer measurements that you have written down. I got 41 inches. Okay, so when we measured the front of the tires with the car jacked up, we had 41 inches, and then in the back of the front tires, we had 41.5 inches. That means there's a 1/2 inch difference of toe change from ride height to full droop. Now, that's pretty close, that's pretty good, but we're gonna switch up the kit on the adjustable bump steer delete and see if we can get it even better.
With the UTV still jacked up, you can now remove both front tires again and begin changing the kit. Remove the spindle hardware and the rod end from the spindle itself. Take one of the smaller spacers on the bottom and move it to the top to achieve your half kit. Reinsert the rod end back into the spindle along with the hardware and make sure you tighten it. Install the wheel and tire back onto the vehicle and repeat these steps on the opposite side.
Okay guys, so now that we switched our BSD kit from the center kit, we're basically going to repeat the process here. So we're going to go back to our ride height, we're going to drive it back and forth to settle the suspension,
Once we're at ride height, we're going to make sure our toe is set back to 0. We always want to start at 0 so we can see the difference from ride height to full droop. Once we get to 0, we'll jack it up. We'll show you guys the difference. Lower the vehicle back onto the ground and start by adjusting your tie rods to where the front tires match the rear tires as close as possible. Drive the vehicle back and forth once again to settle the suspension, making sure that you come to a coasting stop without hitting the brakes. Measuring by yourself or using somebody else to help you, make sure that your toe at ride height is set to 0. This might take a couple turns of each tie rod to make this achievement. Okay guys, so our toe is now 46.5 in the front and 45 3/4 in the rear. So we got to make some adjustments to that. Make sure we get the same number on the front and the back side to put us at 0. If your toe is not set to 0 on the initial measurement, you can simply do this by turning the tie rods on both sides to get the even number that you're looking for on the front side and the back side. Okay, so we have 46 in the front and 46 in the back. That means our measurement in toe is 0 at ride height. Now we're going to jack it up and see what the measurement is on that same front measurement and back measurement to give us the difference and let us know what our bump steer is. Jack the vehicle up once again and measure your toe on the front side of the tire and the back side of the tire. Okay guys, so from our center kit, we went from 41 1/4 in the front to 41 in the rear. So our toe change was 1/4 of an inch. And if you remember on our center kit, we were 1/2 of an inch. So we changed it by another 1/4 of an inch. What we're gonna do now is go to our full kit to see if we can make it even better. With the vehicle remaining jacked up, remove the front wheel and tire, along with the spindle hardware and rod end, and removing the last smaller spacer on the bottom and putting it on the top to create the full kit. Reinstall the front wheel and tire and repeat these steps on the opposite side. Okay guys, so we have now done the center kit, the half kit, and now we are about to do the full kit. So what we're going to do is repeat all the steps. So we're going to start at our ride height again. We're going to drive the car back and forth, settle the suspension, and then make sure our toe is set to 0 once again. Then we're going to jack it up from there and see what our number is. Lower the vehicle back onto the ground and make sure your front tires are as close as possible in line with the rear tires. Drive the vehicle forward and backwards a few times to settle the suspension, making sure that you come to a coasting stop without hitting the brakes. Remeasure your toe at ride height to make sure that you are at 0. Okay guys, so you notice when we changed from all 3 different kits, when going back to our ride height, our toe numbers have changed. We always want to make sure that that is set to 0, so when we jack it up, we get an accurate measurement at full droop of what our bump steer number is going to be. So now that our toe is set to 0, we're going to jack the car up on the full kit and see what the difference that one made. And that'll be our last measurement, and then we can go back through all of the different numbers from each individual kit and determine which one was the best fix for your car. Jack the vehicle back up and remeasure your toe at full droop to determine what the difference is from ride height. $41.5. 40 3/4. Okay, so on the measurement for the toe at full droop, in the front we had 41.5. On the rear we had 40 3/4. So we had a 3/4 inch change from ride height with the full kit. So after writing all these down, you can actually go back through it and determine which kit actually had the less number. That'll determine which kit to run to fix the bump steer in your car. So in this case, we had half kit was our best at 1/4 inch. So when you guys determine which kit to use in your vehicle, go ahead and install that back onto the unit. The final step of the installation would be actually go back to the ride height and make sure you set it to 1/4 inch toed in. It's usually going to track the best in all types of terrain and give you the best feedback in the steering wheel as well.
Once you finish that, we'll tighten everything down and you'll be good to go.
Lower the vehicle back onto the ground and settle the suspension by driving it forward and backwards, coming to a coasting stop without hitting the brakes. The final part of the installation is to make sure that you set your toe at a 1/4 inch towed in at ride height.
45.5.
In this case, we are still at 0, so we are going to adjust the tie rods just enough to get us to a 1/4 inch towed in. The numbers shown here may differ from the numbers that you are going to get on your specific vehicle. The important thing to remember is to always set your toe at a 1/4 inch towed in on the final step of the installation.
45 7/8. So once you guys get your toe set to a 1/4 inch towed in, always a good idea to go take it around the block, make sure the car drives straight. You can do that by just eyeballing the front of the tire to the rear of the tire, or you can take it to any qualified alignment shop and have them do it for you. Once you guys get that all set, now you can lock everything down and your installation is complete.
Using a 15/16 wrench, make sure to lock down the jam nuts holding the tie rod in place. Repeat that step on the opposite side. And your installation is complete.
We hope that this video helped you guys with the installation of the new BSD kit at home. The most important thing with this kit is to make sure to cycle this in all 3 locations. It's going to determine which kit is actually going to be used because each car is going to be different. When finishing the installation, make sure to tighten all the jam nuts on the tie rods and torque your spindle hardware to 88 foot-pounds. If you like this video, please subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit the bell to be notified anytime that we post a new video. If you'd like to order this kit or any other products that we offer, feel free to visit the website at shocktherapyusa.com. For any other technical help, give us a call at 623-217-4959.
You gotta wake the baby.
Oh, hey, how you doing? Yeah, good. Yep.
We took the struggle bus today.
For real.
Struggle City, sweetheart.
For real.
Like bringing some barky dogs, chases kids.
So if you notice, going from the 46 in the front and 45 3/4 in the rear. So always make sure. What we're gonna do now is go to the full kit. Wow. Wow. What's up, bruh? What do you mean?
What do you mean, what do I mean?
What do you mean? What do you mean?
What do you mean, what do you mean?
What do you mean? What do you mean? What do I mean? Oh, we're continuing.
Yeah.
I got
No,
you.
we don't just stop there.
That's it. Pressure.
Pressure?
Pressure.
Don't feel pressure, it's not a porno yet.
Yeah. Allow yourself 3 to 4 hours.
Take this phone call.
Feel free. Feel free. Yeah, okay.